It seems like the GitHub team can't stop thinking about Cursor. If you haven't kept up with the history here, way back in end of 2021, beginning of 2022, Copilot was introduced as an AI tool to help us autocomplete our code as we write it. And honestly, it was revolutionary. I was so skeptical at the time and was surprised how quickly I grew to like it and then eventually love it. Not Copilot itself, because it was atrociously slow and didn't have the best recommendations. When I started trying other models, specifically SuperMaven, I was blown away at the speed and accuracy of the code it was giving me. And then I gave Cursor a shot, didn't like it, went back to VS Code. But then I gave it one last chance and ended up being blown away. Having now used Cursor for quite a bit, it is definitely my editor of choice. There are things I would change. There are things that need to improve, especially the speed when compared to something like SuperMaven. But overall, it has improved how I write code. It has also caused me to cancel my subscription to GitHub Copilot, and it has also resulted in me not using VS Code directly because Cursor is a fork of VS Code. GitHub is taking this very seriously. They're taking it so seriously that they are putting existing relationships that Microsoft has at jeopardy in the process. One of the big differentiators between Cursor and VS Code is that VS Code is built on Copilot, which is built on top of OpenAI's models. Cursor has a list of different models you can pick from. That's a huge difference because Cursor isn't trying to make a perfect model or do all of those things. They're just trying to make the user experience of writing code with AI better. And GitHub has to catch up, and they're taking it very seriously. Do you know how I know that? This is how. Despite Microsoft's close relationship with OpenAI, GitHub now supports Anthropic and Claude in Copilot. It's not a secret that Claude is better at code than OpenAI's models. I've pretty well established that at this point. But for Microsoft and GitHub to be willing to make a change like this and to no longer be a full OpenAI house, that means things are about to change. Microsoft is no longer betting entirely on OpenAI, and GitHub isn't either. Copilot has been rethought as a real competitor to Cursor. Before we go any further, real quick disclosure, I'm an investor in all three companies that I just mentioned, about equal across the three of them between SuperMaven, Cursor, and Microsoft. But none of them know I'm making this video. None of them are paying me anything to talk about any of this. But I do have to get paid. So let's quickly hear from today's sponsor, PostHog. PostHog's the all-in-one suite of product tools you wish you started with. I can't tell you how many analytics providers I've used over the past 5 years alone. And PostHog's the first one that I honestly stuck with. They have a bunch of tools that actually help your products, from session replays to feature flags to surveys. Yes, a good survey product. No more Google Forms. By the way, they're open source, so you can self-host if you really want to, but they're honestly so cheap, you probably won't bother. Also, look at this website really quick. Not this part, that's cool. This part. It's silly, but trust me, once you start using the product, you'll get it. Their vibes, they're immaculate. That's all I know how to put it as. Thank you, PostHog, for sponsoring today's video. Check them out at posthog.com/Theo and let them know Theo sent you. Let's dive in. Quick thing, because it came up in chat and I wasn't clear about it. SuperMaven is using their own model. They are just a small extension in your editor, but the model is what they're building. So SuperMaven's all in on the model. Cursor's all in on the UX. Copilot is somewhere between the two, and it's not fully committed. They do use Claude and OpenAI for their chat, but the actual autocomplete is entirely SuperMaven's model, and it flies. If I recall, the Tab 9 founder is the SuperMaven founder. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure. This slide broke me. I did not expect this in the slightest. I thought Copilot would slowly die on top of the wrong model. As I said here, this is monumental. The OpenAI and Microsoft partnership is starting to crumble. People freaked out here. And as you see in the replies, ChatGPT is not usable for anything coding related when you compare it to Claude. It makes sense. Probably didn't like the little Apple stunt that Sam pulled. Yeah, there's a lot of little things I'm sure they're not happy about, and Claude is a better model for code. What a mess. If this was just the models that we were talking about, that'd be one thing, but they did a lot of changes here. I hate to do this to you guys, and I promise we'll make it as valuable as possible. No one should have to watch 50 minutes of GitHub Universe keynote. We'll do our best to go through this and chop it down so only the important parts become your problem. We're talking about the models, so let's start with this bit. I am so not excited.
And finally, in phase 2, we will go from multi-model functionality to multi-model choice.
I've never seen a slide from an established software development business that has this many meaningless terms on it. AI infused, AI native, AI agents, conversational coding, multi-model functionality, and multi-model choice. None of these mean a fucking thing. I hate this era. I hate this so much. It sucks because there is actual value in these tools. Cursor has made my life better. Claude has been a great model to work with. Nothing on this slide means fucking anything. If you were saying in chat, this feels like they're the... You know what? I'm going to pull chat up so you guys can hang out with me so I'm not suffering fucking alone with this. God, I can't believe we're at this point. This is straight up from a sitcom.
Go from multi-model functionality to multi-model choice. There was a boom of high-quality models.
Are these the next steps for these? So conversational coding becomes AI agents? I hate this. I hate every second of this.
2024. And you know what? GitHub is still GitHub. We are an open developer platform, and developers expect the agency to build with the models that work best for them.
Just the way he enunciated developers there.
Developers, 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 developers. Developers, 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 developers.
Open developer platform, and developers expect the agency to build with the models that work best for them.
This is just German Steve Ballmer with less to say. Developers. So
today, we deliver just that, and we deliver it right here, right now.
Can they say anything real here? Okay, this is, they show you have multiple model choices, cool. I think the fact that developers have to know the difference between these models and make choices is a fundamental failure in the adoption of these things. It reminds me of the era where to use a computer, you had to know how a terminal worked. The fact that people who are coding or working with these AI models need to know that Claude 3.5 Sonnet 1004 behaves fundamentally differently than Claude 3.5 Sonnet 0415 or whatever the fuck. Why? Why in my goddamn editor, and I go to cursor settings, do I have all of these options? Why is this a thing? Why? Okay, let's do a poll real quick. I'm curious. And remember, y'all on YouTube seeing this, this is a representative group of hardcore nerds that hang out live to watch me talk about software stuff. Do you know the difference between Claude, Sonnet, and Opus? Yes, meh, no idea. Reminder, this is an enthusiast group. These are the people who are the most invested and are the most likely to know these things and what the differences are between them. We're still at a 62%, no idea. That's the problem. The fact that all of these choices exist is like meme tier. Also, I mentioned before, this Claude 3.5 Sonnet is very different from this Claude 3.5 Sonnet because this is using the newest model. This is using a slightly older one. If it was just in this hidden models setting page, that'd be one thing. The fact that you can provide your own API keys is just kind of funny, but it's not just there. When I do Command A, Command K, I have a little drop down here where I can change between the different models. It is in your face about which of these things you're using. This is like imagine if every time you opened an app on your Mac, there was a little drop down that said, do you want to use this in Zish or Bash? Or if you're on Linux and every time you opened an app, it's like, do you want to use this in Wayland or Zorg? These aren't things that people should have to know or give a fuck about. And the fact that these abstractions are leaking to the users shows just how early and unprepared this shit is. Oh, and even Gemini got a little spot. But see the difference in how much Gemini got versus Anthropic? That says a lot.
We mean it when we say multi-model choice. Today, lightning strikes twice. So we are thrilled to share a partnership with Google, bringing Gemini 1.5 Pro to GitHub Copilot.
I don't think I have that option here. Not that anyone would want it. Yeah, it's not even in here. Good. It shows, again, Microsoft doing Microsoft's thing. Like, what they actually wanted was Anthropic and Sonnet. But in order to make it not piss off OpenAI too much, they're like, no, we support everyone. No one wants this. Nobody wants Gemini except for Google employees. What does matter is the changes they're making to VS Code.
So this is the website that we're going to be working on throughout the day today and building some cool things with it. So before I get into...
Oh, is that Cassidoo? Cool. Finally, like a human I can trust some amount on stage. Don't want to think about how much they paid her to do this, but yeah.
To it, I'm going to head over to the code. Who here has used GitHub Copilot before? Wow, that is awesome.
That is an embarrassingly small number of hands, but to be fair, GitHub Universe has a surprisingly small number of devs. I was supposed to go today. I chose not to because I preferred to record. I tried using Gemini and it converted my React app to Angular. Even if that's fake, it's funny.
And you're making my job so much easier. For those who haven't used it before, that's okay. I'm going to show you an example of what it can do. So what I could do is I could type a function, get coolest developer in the world, and then try to autocomplete it and see what it returns.
No offense, Cassidoo. That was better. It's a small thing, but like as I'm typing, oh, it's already autocorrecting. Like I probably want to get rid of that because it's all I just deleted things. But if I go back to typing it, get coolest developer in the world, it autocompletes more than just the open bracket. And also, this has been a big thing for me using Copilot. It would often screw up the ends of things. So it would miss a semicolon or it would screw up the brackets at the end. This doesn't have those problems, which is really nice. It's still slow compared to what I like with Supermaven, but it's pretty fast. It gives good answers, and it doesn't do the weird syntax like open closing bullshit that I had a lot of with Copilot. Anyways.
What? AI has never lied. Okay, so it does a very, very smart autocomplete, but you can also use GitHub Copilot Chat. So I could highlight this right here, and I don't even have to just ask in English. I could say, ¿puedes explicar esto? In Spanish, and then it will explain what this code does in Spanish for me right here in the chat. So
unironically cool use case. This is a thing I think about a lot. The fact that to be a successful developer, you almost have to know English sucks. It's not just like the resources are in English. It's like the languages are in English. In JavaScript, to define a function, you write the English word function. To import something, you write the English word import. Code is written in English, even if you're not an English speaker. And it's sometimes jarring to see English function followed by a Spanish or a German or other languages word. But now imagine you're a dev that doesn't speak native English. You know some of these words because you've written enough code, but you don't really know them. And now you're reading a code base that is complex, and you don't know which words are things they defined versus are things that are part of the language, and you're struggling to keep up. The idea of chat as a way to like understand code that's in a language you aren't familiar with, not JavaScript versus Python, but English versus Spanish, is actually a compelling use case. I can't believe I have been trolled into saying that Copilot chat can be useful, but this is a good use case. As you see in chat, Spanish speaker here, me and my whole team write code in English, and everyone else I know only did it in Spanish in university. These are fair points. Anyways.
If only we could edit multiple files at once. Well, now we can! Copilot for multi-file editing is now available.
Did Copilot really not have multi-file editing before? Like, actually? I haven't used it in so long. Did that actually just not have it? I've had that in Cursor forever now. So this is an app I was working on. I'm building the Pokemon app in the new next patterns. Let's try doing something across files. I'm not even going to give it the context. I'm just going to open this file that I'm in. Let's clear everything I have, reset. It suggests other files I can add. Let's add an accurate metadata export for every page.tsx file. I didn't do anything. Now it went through and added a metadata export to all of my routes. We can look at all of the things that changed here. Here's what it added to each of the different pages. And when you look at them here, you can actually see behind that. I don't even know the hotkey to minimize because I usually just accept and then go and check the code that it changed after. So I'll just do that. And now we see it created this with the title, a description, and open graph. Nice. See how easy that is? Let's see how they do it in multi-file editing in VS Code, which I actually can't believe it didn't have this before.
So we have this new edit mode right here. And what's cool about this new edit mode is, first of all, I can...
God, the UI is so close. That's like insulting. It's weird.
Go down here and change the model. So I'll choose Claude for this one.
Oh boy, I wonder why you chose Claude.
And then I can say, hey, can you create a new reusable area graph from our points activity service? And I want it to be displayed below that points activity table, and I want it to behave very similarly to the on-time line chart. And then, of course, don't forget to write tests. And then
So you have to manually tag the files. I've lost all interest. Here's one I actually did recently. I'm not going to replicate it perfectly. I just want to show you guys an actual thing I did that was this is really useful for me. This is an app I made called Quick Pick. It's really useful for YouTubers and not many other people. It's a quick way to convert SVGs to PNGs at high res to make an image square, and somebody else contributed a corner rounder that will round the corners of an image. All really useful tools to just have in the browser. They don't cost money because they're running in your browser anyways. I don't fucking care. But when I was working on this, I did a first pass on the SVG to PNG tool, got it working pretty well. I then went and made the square image generator. And while I was working on this, I came up with a better way to style and make it look okay. So if I take like the Fastify bench thumbnail, I had this set up. I had like the text and content here a way I liked. I had the toggles here for white and black background, the save image button that's green and the cancel that's red. I had this in a way I liked. And the page I had built before was ugly as fuck. So what I did, I shit you not, just out of curiosity if it would work, I went to the rounded tool and I just Command A. I don't even think I Command A. I think I just Command Shift K. It knew I was in this file, so that's the context. I said, fix the styles so this looks just like the square tool. That's all I did. And it just did it. Now I won't have much to do because I already did it before. But the fact that I could do that and it could go find the other file it needs for context and do it correctly was nuts. It just makes these types of things significantly easier to do and work around. So yeah, has nothing to change because it was already fine. But if it wasn't, it would have changed a bunch of things. Yeah, I've been impressed. With these types of things, it's been a really useful tool. And I'm amazed that Copilot is both still in catch-up mode and their implementation requires you to tag the files you want it to have access to manually.
we hit go, and we see what it does. And I'm very excited about it. So it gives us our step-by-step saying we're going to create a chart component, we're going to add it to the profile page, and we're going to create tests for that new component. And it starts creating those files right away. And so as you can see here, we already have this monthly ports area chart graph, and it's based on what already exists in our code base. And it has the green diff there so you can see what's new, which is everything.
Does it really have the red diff on top for empty file being deleted? They haven't even fixed the VS Code UX around it. That's hilarious. I don't want to just keep roasting VS Code catching up. I am actually curious about Copilot extensions. I have no idea what these are, and I really hope they're useful. I really hope so.
And you can use it to extend GitHub Copilot to do all kinds of things. And in this particular case, I'm going to head back to our chat, and I'm going to flag launch darkly, create a flag based on our monthly points chart, and then it will run the extension. And so we've already got a little pop-up here saying we want to create the flag, we have a key for it, make it available on the server, and then I can toggle the flag right here in VS Code without ever having to leave. And it just works, and there's so many cool extensions out there. Now,
that's unironically cool. The ability to interface with a service that your code base works with via the chat and that interface allows for you to access things without having to install a bunch of weird extensions and figure out their weird UX. A unified method to command things externally is powerful. The fact that everything they just did worked via text prompts that come up as like alerts in the editor is absurd and hilarious. That this is just like 5 text prompts. They don't even happen in chat. They happen separately on the top of the view. That's like meme tier. The concept is awesome. I see a lot of potential. That is the implementation. Almost feels like a joke.
And so it is called GitHub Copilot Custom Instructions. It's a file that you add inside of your GitHub folder, and it's just a markdown file called Copilot Instructions. And you can just say what you want Copilot to do. And this has been one of our most requested features. So in this particular code base, we say, whenever we make a reusable React component, make sure you add the launch darkly service. But you can put whatever you want in here. You could say, I want all of my functions to have certain doc strings. I want it to follow certain linting rules. I wanted to add a comment saying that Cassidy's the coolest developer in the world at the bottom of every component, so your demo looks awesome. You never know, but you can do whatever you want here, and that's all that's happening right under the hood. To make this,
I will say, I have not seen many compelling examples using these types of instruction prompts, like as part of your editor experience. I see them more as a patch when you're consistently seeing bad behaviors. For example, if it keeps trying to rewrite your TypeScript code in JavaScript or try and insert types into your JS code, a rule that is stop using TypeScript, always give me JS could be useful. I've tried those things here and there to try and get Copilot to behave. I don't have any rules set on any of my AI tools right now. On my Claude setup in the browser, I have a workspace, I think it's called, where I dumped my schema for one of my projects using Drizzle. So I can ask it to write queries for me and it's slightly more accurate. That part's cool. But the fact that you have to care about these things and write this type of shit, and now you have multiple sources of truth for how the AI is going to behave between the actual code and your instructions, that's terrifying to me. I don't dig this at all. Do they have anything else to show with extensions? No, that's it? Weird. Here's an actually cool one, Xcode support, because Apple will never figure this out themselves. Xcode has not improved meaningfully in over a decade at this point.
Apple developers, GitHub Copilot is available in Xcode today.
Mountains had to move for that to happen. I've talked to a few people on what it would take to get Xcode to a better place, both internally and externally. This is a good sign on the Apple side, that they're more willing to embrace things that developers like inside of Xcode instead of just continuing to reinvent everything with no value being added. Cool. Weird, but cool. GitHub models. Oh, God. Oh, they made a way to choose different models and host them through GitHub. Cool. Oh, God. Copilot workspaces. I don't want to get nerd sniped by this, but I already have a video. I've never been more embarrassed on someone else's behalf as I was trying to look through the Copilot workspaces stuff. The one example they used for all of their marketing, the code was wrong, and the AI, quick context on Copilot workspaces, it's a bot that will look at your GitHub issues and automatically file PRs based on the issue as you described it, which it did a great job at, because it took an issue, which was add a URL validator to validate GitHub URLs. It did it wrong, and it added a new license file to the repo, and it added a contributing MD to the repo. None of those things are fixing the problem that was in the issue, but all of them were things the bot thought would be a good idea to stick into that PR. And they used the screenshots of that PR, intentionally cropped for all their fucking marketing. Someone found the PR and showed how bad it was, and I got to cover that in my video. So check that out if you haven't. If you want to see just how little faith I have in Copilot Workspace, I'm just going to skip this part. Oh, is the rest a demo of it? God. Okay, what the fuck is Spark?
One more advancement to show you. An advancement that fundamentally blurs the line between a developer and the everyday person. Introducing GitHub Spark.
The applause is as unsure as I am. The AI native tool to build apps in natural language. Can we stop saying AI native? Can that term just die? Can we agree as a community to stop using the term AI native? It's borderline Web3 in how meaningless and grifty it is.
GitHub Spark is an AI native tool to build applications entirely in natural language. Now, any person, no matter their experience, can create and share an application in a matter of minutes. Why don't we do another live demo? It's not an IDE in the classic sense. I don't have to install Python first or figure out how sudo works with Homebrew.
That looks familiar. That looks familiar. Point being, there's been a handful of these now. Hell, I've invested in one. That looks familiar. It's kind of insane that GitHub is just making a almost certainly going to be worse version of the exact same thing. And also, once again, they're defaulting to Sonnet because the other models aren't good at this.
I see an input field of what I want to create. I, of course, have our new model picker here with different models. And I have all my recent Sparks, and you can kind of get an idea what you can do with Spark by just reading through the list, a podcast timer app, a karaoke night planner, vehicle world game. And speaking of games, I always love to build little games when I have time to play with large language models. So let's do a tic-tac-toe game with the hippo and a rubber duck, or a duck.
My eyes glazed over. Can we actually see this?
And you have to figure out which code goes into which file. You have to copy and paste stuff. You have to try to figure out.
Oh, I'm already seeing something I detest. Let me get out of full screen so I can zoom in on that. Iterate, theme, settings, data, menu. What the fuck is that bottom nav? Do you know what this reminds me of? The worst UX I've ever seen in a product. DaVinci Resolve always has these giant icons in this tab bar at the bottom. No matter what you do, this is taking up a bunch of your vertical real estate. Like, these shouldn't even be different tabs. They'll just be part of the fucking editor. It's insane. And now you have, sure, you don't have to worry about code. It's not an editor. But instead you have to worry about iteration, themes, settings, and data. And for some reason, they're all different fucking things.
Out how to run the thing on the terminal. Here, it just does it all for us, streaming in digital, as you can see on the screen. And at the bottom, you already see.
I feel like I'm having an aneurysm. Cool, tic-tac-toe works. Just to emphasize how dumb this is, build me a tic-tac-toe game in React. Oh no, I could see code. This is unusable. Who the fuck are they targeting with this? And in just a moment's time, we now have a fully functioning game of tic-tac-toe. What's going on? Oh no, it loaded. That's hilarious. Okay, that's even funnier. Notice something wrong with the layout? I do have to screenshot that. That's the one annoying thing when you have these browser environments is the hotkeys you're used to affect the browser, not the thing you're in. Let's see if I got it right this time. No. Make the grid 3 by 3. You know what? I love Bolt. It's usually much better at these things. Make me a game of tic-tac-toe in React. Cool. Now we have, theoretically, a working game of tic-tac-toe. Cool. Dope. How did Bolt do? Bolt, supposed to be the good one. RIP. I will say Bolt has one awesome benefit, which once this loads, I'll show you guys. Cool. So even though I couldn't get it to fix this, there are two cool things you can do here. The first is you can edit the code yourself, which is really nice. So if I wanted to go fix the layout here, I could. So we have the board component. I can go find the code for it. Board is in /components/board. So in here, we can make sure this is correct. I'm not going to bother with a grid. Instead, we're going to do flex call. And now I did that and saved it. It's fixed. And I can even add a gap in both of these. We'll do gap 3 is what I'm using below. And look at that. It's fixed. Dope. It's really easy to do that. But what's even easier is deploying. I could say, deploy this, and it will. And I could even click the little deploy button that my face is covering in the corner. If I do that, there you go. And now we're auto-deploying to Netlify. I do actually unironically think this is pretty cool, especially for people who aren't coders, to be able to deploy a thing and see it actually working in production that easily is dope. And you could even claim it for your Netlify project. So if somebody gets to this URL before me, cool. You can have my tic-tac-toe app. Go nuts. Yeah. There's a lot of options for this, and all of them mostly work. I don't care about GitHub making their own worse version. Spark apparently goes further. As devs, we love to customize our environments and to build tools that fit our unique preferences and workflows. What are you? Speak for yourself. I'm joking. Obviously, we're into that. We do this not just because it improves productivity and ergonomics, but also because it makes our daily routine feel more personal. And when things feel personal, they're typically more fun. However, while we may invest in things like managing dot files, writing automation scripts, or configuring editor settings, how often do we pass up ideas for making our own apps? Not necessarily because we couldn't build them, but because they seem too short-lived, niche, or time-consuming to prioritize. The thing blocking me isn't that they're too short-lived or time-consuming to prioritize. It's that Stripe setup sucks. As soon as Stripe's easier to set up, I'm going to be putting out like 3 times more apps. And even then, I'm still putting out a ton. And I also have a YouTube channel, and I run a company, and I do a bunch of investing and advisory. It's not that hard. I think we're kidding ourselves saying, and I see this all the time, this I need a good term for this fallacy. The tools are the problem fallacy is how I see it. It's, if only the tools were better, then we would have so many more things. If only it was easier to record a YouTube video, we'd have so many more YouTubers. If only it was easier to use OBS, we'd have so many more streamers. If only the IDE was simpler, we'd have so many more developers. No, that's not how this shit works. Doing it is hard. Making the entry point marginally easier does nothing but delay when that huge cliff occurs. It is jumping off a cliff to learn how to code. If the AI tools let you do something before you get to that cliff, cool. You still got to jump up the fucking cliff when you get there. That's just reality. And pretending that fixing all the tools is going to make the cliff go away is delusional. It's just shifting where it happens. I can't pretend to care anymore. I am sorry for dragging all of you guys through this. I am done. thank you, Copilot, for making me content at least. I don't see a future where they succeed meaningfully. I cannot believe the state of things here. I had higher hopes, and I missed the era where GitHub was innovative. I feel like the innovation at GitHub quit or retired long ago, and now all of the innovation happens externally so that GitHub can copy it. We'll see where we end up next year and how much AI native bullshit I have to talk about. And until then, peace, nerds.